TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?
Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll It. We're recording this on the first day of the Super 8s. The group phase is just over. I've got Andrew Fidel Fernando joining me from Kandy, where the sound of Sri Lanka fans cheering Pathum Nissanka's 100 at Pallekele is still reverberating around the city. I, Dustin Silgado, am joining you from Mumbai, where I'm still seeing fans in Nepal t-shirts pop up at all different parts of the city like little blue baubles of hope. The rhinos absolutely took over Mumbai. And we've got Sidharth Monga joining us from Goa, where even as people were busy preparing for Urak season, they were also vociferously cheering on USA because as Monga has been shouting from every village square and belfry. Saurabh Netravalkar, while born and brought up in Mumbai, is actually a Goan from the village of Netravali. So all of us have some World Cup connection.
And Viva Carnival.
Fidel, what's the vibe been like in Sri Lanka? Because even just watching the games here on TV, it seemed like there's been some really good crowds in at the games there.
Yeah, it's like Sri Lanka's got behind cricket in a way that I haven't seen for actually a very long time. I thought, like the long kind of decline of the men's team's fortunes would have an effect on crowds, but the moment they started showing some promise, people just flooded back. It was, it was pretty fun to watch. Obviously India Pakistan was sold out, but that was a lot of locals in that match as well. The Sri Lanka matches have been selling well, but just around the cities, I've only been to Colombo and Kandy where the matches are. The cities are very much into it, like everyone you talk to wants tickets. Everyone you talk to is like talking about cricket and talking about the World Cup and how Sri Lanka will do. I think there's still a lot of like they could, lose all the matches from here kind of trepidation. But I know that all the Sri Lanka matches have also now been sold out, the Super 8s matches, because people are kind of looking for something to hope for, I would say. Like it's a very people know that it might not last long, that they could lose in this next match, that they could, people are used to this team playing badly, but they're willing to they're willing to give themselves some hope. But what's been like really fun is just watching people get into cricket again. It hasn't felt like Sri Lankan cities have come alive because of cricket for a long time. Maybe with the exception of Galle, which occasionally comes alive for if a test match reaches the fifth day and something interesting happening. But in Colombo and Kandy, it hasn't felt like this, and it's just wonderful to see. And the Sri Lankan crowds have been so good. They're always like coming to party. They've partied with all of the fans that have come to the ground, the Zimbabweans, the Irish, the Australians. So I think everyone here has been having a good time, where the emphasis at a Sri Lankan ground is very much on like the fan having fun, and there's cricket going on in the background, and if they win, great. But the fan experience at all of the grounds that I've been to, at all of the crowds, that Pallekele crowd for that Australia match was one of the best I've ever seen. Just insane vibes and the way the crowd got into it, and just for probably an hour after, there were people outside, on their way out, chanting Nissanka's name, chanting Sri Lanka, talking to and having fun with the Australia fans. It's just nice to see. I guess, in India, perhaps you see this every time the IPL comes, but in Sri Lanka, it doesn't happen that often. And yeah, there's definitely like a carnival atmosphere, not just at the ground, but around the cities as well. And that's been super fun.
And apparently for the India-Pakistan game, the Sri Lanka fans were kind of divided, right? You had equal number supporting India and equal number supporting Pakistan. Or
Yeah, I
something
don't
around
know.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about equal numbers, but there definitely wasn't like a clear favorite. The Pakistan have always had support in Sri Lanka, and India more recently win since they've started to win and be the kind of. I mean, India have also in the north had a lot of support over the past, but even in Colombo now, there's some India fans because they're the Manchester United of cricket basically. They or the what Manchester United used to be. Sorry, I don't follow football, so this might be a very bad thing. But
I
they,
think they win
in the,
more than Manchester United.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I haven't, but yeah, they're essentially like that team that is known to win, is known to be on like the cutting edge of cricket. And I think there's a big number of fans that connect with that. And also, they play in the Sri Lankan time zone. People are used to them through the IPL. IPL's on every year here. So yeah, there's definitely, I definitely saw lots of fans with Pakistan on one cheek, like the Pakistan insignia on one cheek and Indian insignia on the other. And there was definitely like a lot of India fans and Pakistan fans who I believe were both from their countries, not locals. We're also, taking photos with each other and talking to each other and being kind of very friendly. And so I think the atmosphere of having a neutral game in Sri Lanka was definitely paid off, and I think it was as fun an atmosphere as you can imagine for a game that really didn't have much going for it.
Okay. Sid, let's pick up a little bit from where we left off last time, because as good as the vibe in Sri Lanka might be, I can tell you that for the past 3 days the vibe in our office has not been great because we've had seven dead rubbers over 3 days. We had an Australia Oman game given like that, prime time slot of 7 p.m. and it meant absolutely nothing. Fortunately ended early. But we were discussing on the last podcast this format. And let me ask you, so to be fair, in the first week, there was quite a bit of excitement because there were some near upsets. And of course, that crazy double super over game. But then the moment Afghanistan were kind of knocked out, you knew which way that group was going. And of course, if not for Zimbabwe, there would have been almost, nothing to watch in the tournament. Luckily, Zimbabwe at least made that group interesting. But then again, once Sri Lanka beat Australia, even that group was more or less dead. So, how have you enjoyed the group stages, and or has it left you feeling like, okay, you know what, it kind of worked because at least we got to see the associates challenge the big teams, or are you thinking, no, this format needs some changing because there's just too many inconsequential games towards the end?
Well, shock horror. For two podcasts in a row, I'm going to defend ICC and say they might have got it right. It turned out to be it turned out to be more competitive than we anticipated at first. And B, you will remember the last time we discussed a few other options like carrying forward points or bonus points. So now the counterpoint to it is right in front of us. If let's say if we had teams carrying forward points from the matches that they play against teams that are qualifying for the next round, we would have had, in this case, a group one with all four teams with 2 points and group two with all four teams with 0 point. So, which eventually makes no difference to what would have happened. So, or if we had the bonus point, it's yes, it's a good gimmick, but it can sometimes create some confusing, undesirable scenarios, which I had worked out, which we don't need to get into right here. But the solutions to this are A, to not have your second round matches based on precedings, so that if you finish the top of your group, you get some advantage. But I can see why the preceding is there. Please let's not tar all ICC World Cups by the brush that is used for World Cups that happen in India. Because yes, in during World Cups in India, we don't care about the traveling fan, but generally the idea about having the preceding is for the traveling fan to know where your team is going to be playing and when it is going to be playing, so that you can book your tickets and hotels and everything in advance, which I'm sure happened at the World Cups in Australia, in US, in England. It really helped. Now, this when the tickets were sold, tickets were put on sale so criminally late, it does not matter. But then the ICC cannot say, okay, in India, you know what, India World Cup, we won't have the preceding, but everywhere else we'll have the preceding. So I mean, ICC being a body of the member boards, built for the convenience of the member boards, it is always at conflict between spreading the game and the interests of those member boards. And for them to have delivered two 20-team T20 World Cups in a row in 2 years, in 2 years to have two World Cups that had 20 teams. We saw the thrills of watching Nepal, watching Italy beat Nepal, Zimbabwe coming through the qualifiers and putting on such a run, USA showing the improvement they have shown. So all this has been possible because there is somebody at the ICC who wants to spread the game. But now it has to be done within the constraints, within the limited vision of the member boards who have actually formed the body. And the only solution for this is maybe, go the football way and have a World Cup with 16 teams or 32 teams, groups of four each, two from every group goes ahead and plays knockouts like football World Cup. But again, the problem with that would be, unlike football, cricket is like heavily reliant on India games. So let's say if we went 16 teams and we had four groups of four each and then straight into quarterfinals, then you run the risk of having a World Cup where you might have just two or three India games. Whereas in this format, you have also brought in 20 teams. At the same time, you have ensured 4 + 3, 7 games at least from India. So they have found the best of both worlds. Maybe if they're not front loaded, especially the Afghanistan group, the group of deaths that we have discussed, if they're not front loaded Afghanistan's matches against New Zealand and South Africa as their first two games, that group might still have had interest for much longer. But I mean, given the constraints that the ICC's executive works with, I think they have done a good job of delivering these two World Cups in within 2 years. And I ended up enjoying it more than I had anticipated because I was anticipating a lot of dud games because I mean, thanks to Australia maybe, or and also that group was really really exciting. Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, Afghanistan, and they did produce the game of the tournament. And also the other fact that the pitches are not your consistent 250-run pitches. The pitches have a little something for the bowlers, so it's been more interesting. It's not the same in IPL. We end up just watching the same match over and over again. That's not happening. There are different challenges, different sets of conditions. So that's why perhaps we have enjoyed it a little more.
Mongo, what happened to us, man? We used to argue all the time, and now we like agree on almost we've lost the spark. Like I actually think you're 100% spot on. Like the ICC having a 22 World Cup, first of all, it is so fantastic. I have loved, watching all of the associate teams play. It's also like it's a reminder. It's like a nice reminder to cricket because obviously this is one of the most watched global events in the world. It's a nice reminder to cricket how big the cricket world is. I think we need those reminders to see like, oh, Nepal has this incredible, every couple of years we need to be reminded again, okay, Nepal cricket has this going on and these are the new players. And I know that, maybe us on the podcast, we watch too much cricket and we know what those are, but I think the world they get a chance to perform on the world stage. Obviously Nepal didn't go as well as they would have liked this time, but these other teams, like how great the stories were. The guy who's been tossing pizza, who was from where I used to grow up and now plays for Italy, Krishan Kalugamage. It's nice to see cricket feel like a world sport, like a global, like it has actual global outreach, because so much of what happens in cricket is kind of concentrated between a few teams. And yeah, I also think that I hope that they persist with the 20 team event. And I also tend to agree that seeding is fine as well, because I think often in these tournaments, especially T21s, you see what you presume to be the weakest group. And I think in this World Cup, I would suspect that the group that Australia and Sri Lanka win in Group B was probably one of the weaker ones. But it's not unusual to see those teams also, gain strength through the course of a Super 8s or a longer tournament. And then by the time they get to the semi-final, or the time they get to the business end of the tournament, they're a different team than started out. And giving all 20 teams a minimum of 4 outings, yeah, I mean, it gives those countries and those cricket boards also something to aim for. It gives them something solid that's kind of tangible in their hands, rather than their players, who often have to sacrifice for work, for other reasons, to be able to play cricket. It gives them a concrete goal, and I think that probably raises their own standards of cricket around the world as well, because they're at trainings more. There's more funding coming to them, and there's just more interest. So yeah, I would love to see more teams like Nepal, especially coming through, where there's like authentic, organic, homegrown support. But it's been fun to watch the Italys and the UAEs of this world as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with both of you guys because we had some suggestions in office about going back to the preliminary round, but then, I mean, everyone just tends to skip that over then, and you don't get to see the associates actually play the best teams. And we've got, I mean, from a selfish point of view, we've got such good content out of the associates from this first group. I'll plug our new must-watch section on the Cricinfo new app update. Sorry, I've been creating app promos all week, so my mind is on that. So I'm speaking now like in advertising jargon. But we've got yeah, we had a video with Kalumage, as Fidel said, him telling us about some Italian cricket terms. We met Italy's first cricket captain, whose name now escapes me, but he was actually at the stadium watching the game. There were some other great stories. Yuvraj Samra, named after Yuvraj Singh from Canada, getting 100. We actually had some people predicting that he would do that in office, and he actually ended up doing that. And then, of course, Italy were within one hit of beating Nepal. Netherlands were one catch away from beating Pakistan. So, actually, quite a bit of excitement, especially in that sort of first half of the group stage. But I think the story was clearly Zimbabwe, because who would have thought that they actually topped the group and go into the Super 8s having not qualified for the previous World Cup? I mean, where do you guys think this came from? Because I was looking at Zimbabwe's results since the last World Cup. It's not like they have had this steady progress. They were actually, I think, against full members, they won six and lost about 20 of their games over the last 18 months. I think they beat Sri Lanka twice and they had
But
one win each. Yeah.
they're also unbeaten right from the start of the qualification phase
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the
yeah. Again, yeah, but against the full members, it's not like they were racking up the wins, right? They had
Yeah.
one
so
one odd win here and there,
so
but
they
they
had the conditions going their way.
Yeah.
The slower pitches definitely helped them. If it was a regular quick 230, 240 run pitch, I don't think they would have been able to, upset Australia. Australia also did not have their first choice bowling attack. I think almost except for Adam Zampa, everyone from their first choice bowling attack was absent. But the conditions also kind of worked in Zimbabwe's favor, and full points to them for exploiting them so well. Uh,
And and also I think their attack is underrated. Blessing Muziravani is a very, very good bowler. He's, like I feel like he's on that cusp of like taking that next step and becoming like, maybe a next Heath Streak for them. Someone who is
yeah,
will long term deliver those like nagging early overs, but also has like some good death over skills now. And the way that they decked Australia in that power play, I was at that match. And then they were just clinical, like you could see a lot of teams have a good power play and then in the middle overs just let it go. Zimbabwe played like they were on a mission. Like this was a tick game match that they should win. The way they've been catching fantastically as well and fielding really well. Even in that match against Sri Lanka, they were the better fielding
and
side.
they played a much better match against Sri Lanka in terms of playing it out as tactics, everything. And they actually beat Sri Lanka at Sri Lanka's game in that match. It was Sri Lanka were right at home in those conditions where they can get about 170, 180 and then choke the opposition out. These guys absorbed the pressure, they just kept in touch. And then Sikandar Raza, who has got so much experience, has got so much power, who targeted the spinners and who, you know, they stayed just in touch. In once it was brought down to 7 or 8 overs, he struck those blows. Which was beating Sri Lanka at Sri Lanka's own game was actually much more impressive than Australia because Australia we know would have struggled in those conditions.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing was Brian Bennett batting, like unbeaten, I think, right through the group stages in the three matches that they ended up playing. Just, like it's not if they're a full member team, you'd say they were playing in an old style of T20 cricket or whatever, but they're playing good percentages and they're playing a style that suits them. They're not going to be necessarily the team that, will on a flat track hit a 220. But they're the team that, that their seamers and their spinners have just enough experience that their batters can get them to score, and Bennett's been the engine room of that strategy.
And when Bennett could not get going, he actually played what could have been a match-losing innings against Sri Lanka. He was barely over 100 for a large portion of his innings. But when he didn't get going, they had they promoted Ryan Burl, who did a big job to kind of get those quick 25 runs of 12 balls. And then Sikandar Raza did his job. So there's like the other end also contributed if once he got stuck.
Yeah, and you've got Sikandar Raza striking at 180 through the group stage. The only issue with Raza, I guess, is you'd hope that this problem with cramps doesn't persist. Sabah Karim was telling me he seems to have this issue even in the IL T20 where there's some kind of issue with his hamstring where it keeps cramping up. But
And
yeah, I
now
mean,
if he's fasting, then it can be even more likely, he's even likelier to cramp.
yeah. But anyway, they've got West Indies first up at Wankhede, where the pitch has actually not been like a usual Wankhede pitch. It's actually been quite slow, so that might actually favor them. And then they've got games in Chennai and Delhi, where again the conditions haven't been like they usually have been there, although it's been flatter than the Wankhede. So I mean, there's quite a few people predicting that Zimbabwe will have at least one upset at the World Cup. But of course, them qualifying meant that there was the shock of Australia going out. Now, I guess the simple explanation for what happened with Australia is just the injuries. You had Hazelwood and Cummins obviously missing the entire tournament, but also just before the tournament, Tim David and Nathan Ellis missed the entire build-up with injuries. You then had Mitch Marsh missing a couple of games because of, I think he got a knock in the nets. And Stoinis also was an injury doubt.
In the nets or in the nuts?
I mean, in the
This can
nuts,
be
in the
taken.
net. Yeah.
This can be taken out, actually.
No, this has to be left in. Uh,
Listen, the technical term was testicular internal bleeding.
yeah, that was the term. But so Sanjay Bangar on our show Timeout, which you should also watch, by the way. It's pre-match, mid-innings, and post-match. But he made an interesting and quite
It's definitely better than what else is on offer.
yeah. Well, so Mr. Bangar made a I mean, he had a hot take where he said that Australia maybe just don't take T20s as seriously as they do other formats. And I mean, I think that's maybe taking it a bit far because the reality is they have the BBL, which is a pretty big T20 tournament, and they've got more than enough talent coming through there where even without the likes of Hazelwood and Cummins, they had a fairly good attack. But the reality is the centerpiece of their summer was the Ashes. They won that 4-1. And I actually didn't catch too much of their series in Pakistan, but the people here who did were telling me that it just seemed like they weren't kind of, 100% on in that series. They actually rested both Inglis and Head for the last T20I, which didn't make a lot of sense because even though the series was gone, you would think just on the eve of a World Cup, you would want to play all your players who are going to play in the 11. And you had little bit, I mean, this is more frivolous, but Mitch Marsh saying things like, I forgot to bring my sweater to Pakistan because I didn't realize it would be cold here. And there was just a sense that Australia maybe are kind of taking it a little bit easy, or is that just us now in retrospect, finding reasons? Was it just that they got outplayed in two games, Sid?
So I've been in.
All I know is
Hmm.
that when they won the World Cup in 2021, they were not taking it seriously. Yeah, even at that time, they they just kept winning tosses, and that World Cup was such a toss dominated World Cup in Dubai. And yeah, I won't really debate against this because definitely for them there's like a clear test ODI, and then there's a clear T20I. I don't think they take T20 frivolously, but they take T20Is a little frivolously. They want the players want to be very good at playing the IPL and the BBL whenever they get the chance, or any other leagues that they go to. But as Australia playing T20Is, yeah, they are not that serious about it because they know it is a game. It is really a lot of it relies a lot on luck, chance, because it's such a short format and anything can happen. You don't need to prepare so much. You don't need to prepare as much for T20s as you need to do for tests and ODIs. I will mute myself and mute Flojo after that.
So I've been in Australia sadness mode for the few days because obviously since Monday night they've been in Kandy. They played two further matches here, so I've been like trailing their campaign. And man, the mopey faces that that I seen Australian players make over the last few days, I have never seen on Australian cricketing faces before. It's like it's so weird to watch an Australian team be be like so like just broken or heartbroken. The only other time I saw that was probably 2016 when Sri Lanka won a 3-0 test series against them at home. And then there was similar kind of but yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Monga. They don't like it doesn't the Big Bash League is obviously huge business and very well followed in Australia. But there's increasingly the sense, or there's always been the sense that what happens outside of Australia doesn't really matter that much to the Australian public. Like their winter tours, their away tours aren't such a big deal. They just want their team to be, there's every 2 months, every year in 2 months, the entire country gets behind this the test team and whatever the home summer fixtures are. But then beyond that, it's like it's I kind of feel for the Australian players as well because probably no one would have noticed if they had won this, won 4-0, topped the group and was screaming into the Super 8s, I don't think they would have made that much of a splash at home. But because they've lost and because they're heading home early, suddenly there's a huge spotlight on them. They've denied vociferously, by the way, that they don't care about T20 cricket. Adam Zampa made the point yesterday in a press conference that, like, where in Test cricket teams, there's only 3 or 4 teams that can really challenge Australia because in limited overs cricket and T20 cricket, that the competition's a lot tighter was the word he used. They probably he argued that they possibly spend more time and more effort, and perhaps like there is some truth to that. I don't think they came here underprepared. They obviously organized that trip to Pakistan. You don't do that unless you are intent on arriving at a World Cup pretty well figured out. Their tactics to leave the injured Josh Hazelwood spot open until the Super 8s also suggested maybe a little bit of arrogance that backfired, but it's very rare that Australian arrogance backfires. Usually, the arrogance is justified, and their betting on themselves is justified. And so it's been a very odd week. It's also been odd to watch other teams, out fast bowl in that match against Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka fast bowlers were clearly better. Shamir was clearly the best fast bowler of the night. Against Zimbabwe, Blessing Muzrabani and Brad Evans outshone the Australian quicks. So it's very strange to watch an Australian team have their seamers outdone by two successive teams like that, two successive non-Sena countries at that.
Yeah. I mean, I blame this whole thing on Cam Green for questioning Usman Tariq's action. I think that just gave Australia bad juju and all the stuff that it sparked online with Australian and Pakistani fans fighting in the crowd, etc. I think it all just worked against Australia.
Yeah,
But
if there was ever a move that deserved bad juju, I mean, there's lots of things, but yeah, I do think that move deserved a little bit of bad karma to go with it.
yeah. Okay, so that kind of covers that group. What was it? Group B. Then in Group A, India, Pakistan. I mean, all the news was just about whether the game would happen or not. The last time we did this podcast, we were actually talking about our reaction to it not happening, but then lo and behold, it happened. But there wasn't much to actually write home about in terms of the game itself. But I wanted to ask both you guys because there's a bit of like there is I don't know whether it's a minority perception or maybe it's just that I don't have that perception that there's a perception that India haven't actually lived up to the hype in the group stage because they came in as such overwhelming favorites. And I mean, they have won their games more comfortably than anyone else. Their net run rate is 2.5, which is comfortably the best from the group stage. But I guess people were expecting them to like get 250 and 260, and they only got one 200 plus score. And so there's actually, at least some people have this perception that India aren't yet firing on all cylinders. What do you guys make of that? Or do you think it's just that they came up against conditions that were actually not as batting friendly as they've had at home for the last couple of years? And the expectations of them are just so inflated that even when they win by 93 runs against Namibia, it doesn't seem like enough of a thrashing. It should be 150 runs.
Before that, as an admirer of pettiness, I would have liked if PCB had not, announced that, okay, we are back on. They should have kept the BCCI and the ICC waiting till the last moment, whether we will arrive or not.
And as the bus is driving to the ground.
Yeah. And then like cameras following them. That would have been much nicer. We would have had a much bigger audience on a live blog. We would have been like, yeah, it would have been much more exciting. And of course, the cricket between India and Pakistan has not been exciting for years and years, so it would have been better.
Yeah, like a
But
live stream, just a live stream of the bus from the outside. Like
yeah,
a single
yeah.
serve website where you figure out where the Pakistan team is and like their movements around
Oh,
Colombo.
we actually had people in India watching the ICC very cleverly cashed in on the weather forecast, and they put up one single camera
So
at the Premadasa Stadium, and at any given point there were 1,000 plus viewers on that feed, just watching no rain and on the big screen, the Feel the Thrill logo just going on and off. So people were watching that.
that's how big this fixture is. Soon you're gonna get like people in stadiums where on the big screen is all you see on the big screen is the weather feed in the 12 hours before a match.
Yeah.
And people just turn up with their friends to see if it
Yeah.
will rain or not.
So yeah,
ICC next move. Yeah.
we could have had a similar feed on will Pakistan come or not. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
that
yeah,
added it did add a level of intrigue, and I mean until they messed it up and they announced that they were coming, it would have been it would have just like are they training on the day before the India Pakistan match, because at no stage did they ever officially notify the ICC that they were not playing the
and
match, right?
not
Yeah.
that it would have made much of a difference to Pakistan's performance if they had not trained and turned up. It could get much worse. Uh, and so yeah, coming back to what puts food on our table, Indian cricket, and yeah, uh, yes, Dustin, you have rightly pointed out that the conditions have not been conducive to scoring 300 runs or 250 runs, and even they've still been the best team for whatever conditions uh, have been thrown at them. There's one small chink that has appeared is if you can bowl good off spin against them in the power play, they can be kept quiet because there are three left-hand batters at the top, uh, which India are for some reason after spending 2 years saying only the openers are fixed and everything else is fluid and flexible, which India for some reason are not doing. Probably Surya Kumar Yadav is not very comfortable at number three. Uh, but they should if there's like in the game against Netherlands where Aryan Dutt, a tall, quick off spinner who was not giving anyone any room. If such a bowler is bowling well, you need a right-hander to come and break the flow, which India did not do, and especially Tilak Varma, who doesn't have a great record against off spin. So all this, but it's still a small chink because Abhishek Sharma still has great numbers against spin compared to whoever is batting with him. He has hit Ashwin. He has hit other off spinners in the IPL. So
Yeah,
it's not
just on
like
this, I'll jump in with some numbers, Sid, because we have GS Gaurav Sundararaman working with us through the World Cup, and he, of course, was at SRH for a
of
while.
course he will. Of course
Yeah,
he will
so
defend Abhishek.
no, I mean, he said that this was something they brought up when, because they, of course, have two lefties opening head and Abhishek. But then they looked at the numbers and they found that Abhishek actually smashes off spin in the power play. He strikes
Yeah.
at like 190 against them. And he also found that Ishan Kishan actually strikes at 200 plus in the power play against off spin over the last 2 years. Of course, SRH also had both Abhishek and Ishan Kishan in the top three in the last IPL. So he said that for them it wasn't a concern at all. Tilak apparently does have some below par
Yeah,
numbers
so
against off
that's
spin.
the
Yeah.
issue. If Abhishek gets out early, and if Tilak bats through the power play, that becomes an issue. So you would ideally push up Suryakumar Yadav. I also have some numbers on Abhishek Sharma against the three different kinds of spin in the power play. He's hitting leg spin and left arm spin at over 200 in the power play, but off spin it's only 150, which is great. But by
This is
comparison, and in international cricket, not
okay.
IPL.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and he's also not averaging great. He's averaging only 18 against off spin. So that means he's getting out more often and also going slower. So there is a dip. It's not like he becomes absolutely useless, but there is a significant dip against as against the various different kinds of bowlings that he faces. So I'm sure there is definitely going to be teams who are going to open with off spin. South Africa will wish they had Donovan Ferreira,
Yeah.
who
But
would
they,
have
they
been
have
perfect.
I
Aiden
can tell you
Markram,
from the nets, both Markram and Stubbs have been bowling quite a bit in the nets
okay,
for
yeah,
South Africa.
Stubbs also. But I expect them to open the bowling with Markram. But I also expect India to throw in Akshar Patel quite early at Markram because Markram is also suspect against left arm spin. Anyway, so that is just one small chink. But having said all that, India India generally have had a bit of a dip against spin bowling. They are 4 to 5 meters spin bowling. They are striking at only 114, whereas the average in this World Cup is 137. But having said that, India's spinners have been doing much better than any other spinners. So they have been kind of put in conditions where they are not able to dominate spin, but their spin bowlers are actually dominating the opposition much more.
Yeah, Fidel, these are how our podcasts usually go. We just go through the Indian lineup one by one and talk tactics about each player. But today we're doing more of a global review. Yeah, I mean India have still, as I said, they've won all their games fairly easily, and now of course face. I mean, I guess they are now in a slightly easier group given that Australia out. Although of course Zimbabwe can spring a surprise, but you would still suspect India have a fairly straightforward route through to the semi-finals.
But that's also arguable, Dustin, because in the other groups you can afford to lose one match and still reasonably hope to make it by winning the other two. Here, if you lose one match, the other two are like absolute must wins.
Fair, fair. Uh, who else are you guys like looking at from the group stage and thinking they're looking really strong? I mean, Sri Lanka were looking really good till the Zimbabwe game where they fell short. Pakistan have quite a few issues of their own, especially their fast bowling. England, I mean, they scraped through the game against Nepal, and then I mean, they were in danger against Italy as well. Are there any other teams that stand out for you as sort of in-form teams? I guess New Zealand and South Africa have looked pretty good.
I mean, if they didn't have a complete lack of pedigree, we'd probably be saying Zimbabwe are looking pretty good. But it's just the absolute lack of pedigree of getting to those stages, and also, obviously having to qualify, and us just generally believing,
And
or
also moving to India now, which will be different conditions.
yes, yeah.
Although, as Justin pointed out, their first match is in Wankhede against West Indies, where Wankhede has been behaving strangely this year, so who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think the two locks are probably New Zealand, India for the semi-final.
Are you?
Um,
I would say South Africa and India.
okay. But New Zealand are from the other group, no? I meant,
Yeah.
The other group
Yeah.
is wide open, man.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how wide open that is. I think like Pakistan and Sri Lanka are definitely both very beatable. And
As are New
England.
Zealand.
Yeah, England, New Zealand but I think they have enough about them in Sri Lankan conditions to get through the next week pretty smartly. I think there's enough bowling, and they played here reasonably often. They are coached well as usual. I think I would be surprised if they don't end up topping the Sri Lanka group, the group that plays most of his matches here.
And England are capable of surprising us and, turning it
Yeah,
around.
I think we haven't seen like the best of England yet in this
Hmm.
tournament. I suspect that we will see a better version of them. Yeah, Pakistan and Sri Lanka are really looking like I think England too. They all look a little bit shaky, and because of that reason, New Zealand look just much better to me. And England have England haven't quite clicked together, like their top order isn't coming. Salt has got runs here and there, Sam Curran's got runs in here and there, Tom Banton's got run in here and there, but like they haven't put a solid batting performance together so far yet in this tournament. And I think they will feel much better if and when that comes. They've got Sri Lanka first up tomorrow. And if they can do that, then they suddenly look like a pretty good team for the Super Eights. But they just haven't got everyone clicking so far. And
Yeah, and
I do.
I expect that group, all the sides to win at least one match, and it like two teams will win two each and two will win one each. Hopefully, the last matches are virtual quarterfinals, which is on the 27th and 28th. England versus New Zealand. I mean, if like the last two matches are England, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka, Pakistan. If all these four teams go into those last two matches with one win each, we'll have had a great group, a great Super 8 group.
yeah, it just feels like with England, if you wanted a batter to get three consecutive match winning 80s or 55s in slowish conditions, Joss Butler is that guy. Although I haven't checked, are England playing their games in Colombo or Pallekele? Because in Kandy, it's been much higher scoring, right?
Yeah, there are two of their matches in Pallekele, so
Okay,
tomorrow
okay.
and
The
on
final
Tuesday.
game is in
Yeah,
Colombo.
last game. Yeah, New Zealand games in Colombia. Yeah.
Although
Because
for me, selfishly, I want Pakistan and Sri Lanka to come through, and so that we have a Pakistan versus India semi-final in Colombo, and Sri Lanka versus South Africa semi-final in Mumbai.
Yeah,
So
that would be pretty incredible.
proper mockery of these stupid
The
rules.
hybrid model.
there have actually been all sorts of interesting rivalries that have cropped up from the group stage. I mean, Pakistan USA has suddenly become a pretty big rivalry. That was one of the games I was most looking forward to. India South Africa is now being known as the cupcake rivalry. I'll leave that to people's imaginations. Why Fidel is probably doesn't get that because he
No,
hasn't
no,
been
no.
part of the.
I know. I'm very aware of the ad and what happened. Yeah, I've been keeping up.
Listen, this podcast is already on. There have been red flags about this podcast, and influential people are watching it just to make sure that actually people are not watching it, but influential people within the company are watching it. So
Okay. Before we get to, I want to quickly talk about some of the best games from the group stages, just looking back because we've done a lot of looking ahead. But I wanted to ask, since we have Fidel here, like one of the things I've noticed about Sri Lanka is batting wise, they still don't have the kind of power hitters or range hitters that say, Australia, England, India do. But they've actually now developed this game of using the V behind the wicket quite a bit. We saw Nissanka using a lot of those shots. Ratnayake actually, I think I mean, he's
Ratnage
somebody
is such a
who,
great story. His strike rate was 100 and average it was 12 before he was selected for international cricket. And he's now averaging 30 and striking at 154 in internationals.
yeah, but he's another guy who seems to have all the shots in terms of the ramp and the scoop and everything.
Yeah.
Is that been something that's been happening in Sri Lankan
Let
cricket
me
for a while?
let
Them
me put
just,
some let me put some more slander, Sri Lanka slander from George Binoy, who said Pathum weighs about 55 kgs.
He does. I mean, it's not untrue. Pathum Nissanka, after his 100 against Australia, came to the press conference. He was short. I'm not a tall person. I'm 5'7", and he would have been a little bit shorter than me. So I think he's 5'6". But he's like Pathum is one of those guys who he's just on his own trajectory, and I don't think that Sri Lanka can take credit for what he himself is doing because he's such an unusual story. He's like very much an outlier in the Sri Lankan system. His inspirations seem to be like beyond our borders, and he seems to be working on kind of a level that no other batter in Sri Lanka currently is. Kamindu Mendes possibly being the exception, but Kamindu in white ball cricket has not done like a, even a fraction of what Pathum Nissanka has done. So I think he's melding. I mean, he's one of those few batters who takes the best of like the test format and applies it to T20s where appropriate, and takes what's good from T20 and applies it to his tests. His scoring rates in tests have increased, while his kind of touch play that he has, and manipulating of the field, which he does in tests, is very much evident in his T20 game as well. So it's like he's a very unusual Lankan batter. I think he's probably the one that's leading that charge of not being a power hitter and yet maintaining really good strike rates. Pawan Ratnayaka relies a lot on depth of crease, so to the seamers he bats out of his ground and steps way back in to create some length. I think Pawan Ratnayaka for now seems like he's like clinging on by the skin of his teeth and making it work somehow. Like he did not have a lot of he got into the T20 team based on one day innings, by the way. He got off a 1 day 100. He wouldn't have been part of this T20 squad at all. But because Sri Lanka have so many gaps of field everywhere, that one good 1 day innings is good enough to get you into the team. And Pawan Ratnayaka is making a fantastic fist of it right now, fielding really well as well. And suddenly has become one of those players that the Sri Lankan kind of management really trust. Whether that'll carry through into the Super 8s when he's consistently playing more highly ranked opposition, I guess we'll see. Also, there are definite, unlike with Nissanka, who has spent, the last few years really honing his technique at the top level and making it as kind of opposition proof. There's not a lot of like video analysis that you can do on Nissanka's game that's really going to expose any weaknesses. Whereas I think Pawan Ratnayaka is not in that same boat. He's very new. People will study him. People will come up with good plans to him in the next week. But so far he's won through all those challenges. It's not like other teams he hasn't already been exposed. So he's doing well. And then Kusal Mendes is the other one, having a really good. Kusal Mendes is one of those players who's very form reliant. And right now he's on a serious upswing. And anything on his pads, he just absolutely murders right now. So yeah, between those three, they've been getting off to some good batting. They really need some runs from Kusal Perera. They could really do with some bigger hitting from Shanaka, especially now that Wanindu Hasaranga is out and they don't really have a lot of batters lower down. Lalaga, again, not known for his power game, has worked on his scoops and ramps and stuff to get some low order boundaries. But yeah, the batting is very much not built around power. The only batter probably of that bunch who is probably Dasun Shanaka. The rest is all about timing. It's all about finding gaps, and maybe not a lot of six hitting as well. A lot of fours, a lot of finding gaps in the outfield is where they like to live. For that to work, they need their bowling to be like really top notch. Dushrant Chamira is in good form, in good rhythm. But now that Pathirona is out, they've lost a really solid death overs option. I don't know. I'm a bit worried about how that bowling attack will go. Dilshan Madhushanka is swinging it and is swinging it at speed, but has never been a good T20 bowler. Yeah, those injuries I suspect will catch up with them in the Super 8s.
Monga, I don't have a particularly good segue to this next question, but just so that I hit all the hotspots of fan bases on Pakistan, let me just ask you the question this way. Do Pakistan end this campaign with both Shaheen and Babar out of the 11?
Yeah, Babar, yes, Babar should be out of the 11. But see, the problem is who in his place. I mean, we already have Salman Agha, who actually has worse numbers than Babar.
But he's been batting very differently.
Yeah, he's trying, but he doesn't have it. You could see those numbers tell you that he's not an elite T20 player. I'm sure if Pakistan had those kind of players coming through, Babar and Rizwan would have been under much more pressure 2 or 3 years ago when they were, coasting through. At that time, they would have been under much more pressure, and by now they would have been out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the option they have would be just to, maybe tinker with the batting order a bit, send everybody in a little bit earlier and maybe play an extra bowler? Or Fidel, do you have any other ways that Pakistan could rejig their side so that maybe you don't have an anchor batting at number four?
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming increasingly hard to defend because every time Babar comes to the crease, it feels like the pressure on anyone who's out there already is just like take goes up a couple of notches. And you can't really play modern T20s when one of your batters is always putting his teammates in that position. Pretty much always. And so I think even Mike Hessen, the most recent quotes that we've had from him, I think Daniel had written a piece today, are just about like is his time marked? And really, it is just about them not having an obvious replacement, which is surprising given the PSL's been going for a few years, that they don't have at least like a little production line of batters who can come in and give you like you would take a batter who can come in and give you a 25 or 15 over Barber right now because that would at least keep the middle overs going. There's a big slowdown that
But
happens.
I feel there's a much more disturbing trend that Pakistan have been isolated so much that they have fallen behind on those grassroots coaching methods which are needed for modern cricket of modern players who are playing three formats or two formats. I'm very, very disappointed in Shaheen Shah Afridi not evolving at all in who was the Shah? Naseem Shah, not there anywhere now. There's fast bowlers who had all the material to push on to the next level, not making it. And their production line is not throwing up players who can take on the challenges of modern international cricket, which is very, very disturbing for me because they have the Pakistan was one of the teams that used to be at the forefront of innovation. They used to accept some change before others did. They had all the right kind of players coming through, even if it didn't show in their final performance. But right now they've just fallen behind on many metrics on the kind of players that are coming up and the kind of heroes that they are looking up to. I mean, Babar Azam should have been under fire 5 years ago, not now, and he's still making it to the team. Which I
Yeah.
mean,
5 years, 5 years is a lot. 5 years he was doing pretty well across formats.
no, I'm not. I'm talking about T20
Yeah.
here. He
Yeah.
could
No, no, me
still.
too. Yeah.
I mean, Virat Kohli. You see the pressure that he's in under in India. He might have just kept his place in T20s, but the pressure was immense, and Indians like behind Indians were all everybody like everybody who knew the strength of the reserves knew that India were not playing the best possible 11 in the World Cup that they won. That was the kind of pressure that Virat Kohli was under. And Virat Kohli actually, kept up with times. He kept changing and evolving. So those kind of things, it's very, very disturbing to see what's happening with Pakistan cricket. They're just not, you cannot have a fix at the top level for this. It has to be, there is something wrong with the administration at the number of matches that are played, the kind of pitches they are played on, the kind of coaching academies they have. All those things need to be like seriously looked at.
Yeah, I mean, it says something about the state of the game when the guy denying Babar Azam a single in the Big Bash is a guy who has developed his game to now hit sixes, but still can't make his country's T20 eyeside, while the guy being, who's being told that you can't be on strike is still making his country's side. And the funny thing about Babar is it's clearly, I think, playing on his mind as well because he actually had two games in this tournament where they were almost kind of set up for him. Like the Netherlands chase was a 140 chase where you thought Babar would, be able to manage that, but there he actually gets out playing a hoik against India. I mean,
Same against India. I mean,
yeah, I mean they
India,
were yeah they were in trouble already, but at like 30 odd for three, chasing 176, you thought okay, Babar could at least, but he plays like a slog sweep and is bowled. So I mean, like he's not even doing the anchor job anymore, really.
This is the World Cup or second ICC event that Barber is having this journey, by the way. That Champions Trophy last year in Pakistan and Dubai, he'd also been struggling massively. Teams just started bowling off spin at him because he had a huge slowdown against that kind of bowling.
Imagine a right-hand batter in the big 2025 struggling against off spin.
Yeah, or just spin into him. I think even possibly Kuldeep also did well against him. But yeah, it's very it's I don't think there are many teams in the world where Barber still survives. And I think perhaps there are, there are non-cricketing reasons as well why he's there, as in, things around Pakistani cricket culture. But from the outside, I agree with Monga. I don't think it's gone quite 5 years, but I agree with that it's been unsustainable for a little while now. And I mean, their PSL's coming up, so hopefully they don't turn up to the next. Yeah.
ODI World Cup of 2023 also, their top three was Imam, Fakar and Babar. Again, they were the worst top three. They're the worst numbers in the power play, worst intent in the power play. Sides like Netherlands were actually trying to, at least attempting to do better than them. They've been playing this cricket that has been left behind by other teams. Whereas they used to be, for us in Asia, they used to be first to, tape ball, first to have day-night matches, first to master T20 in Asia. They used to be the first. And now they're just being left behind by everyone.
Yeah, I'm so sure. Anyway, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
the one thing I will say for them is they do still have innovation. Usman Tariq is still doing new things that we haven't seen.
Which is a complete accident that has,
complete accident. Yeah, and he's not come through the system. He's come from outside it, which is perhaps like what has made him successful as well, because he's not been overcoached, or he hasn't like conformed his game to the way that a lot of others are playing, and that point of difference has definitely made him successful. I'm still watching. I'm covering 2 Pakistan games the next week. I'm still really looking forward to watching him bowl. Especially
I'm still hoping they make the semi-final. Yeah. Just to make sure.
I was just going to say now
that Sri Lanka don't play at home.
And I was just going to say now that on this podcast we spent 15 minutes like trashing Pakistan, they're definitely winning this World Cup. On which note, I should do a bit of a mea culpa here, because we spent we spent an entire episode questioning India's team selection for this World Cup, and one of the things I questioned was Ishan Kishan being selected after 3 years out of the team. And I said, how can you select him just based on one performance in the Syed Mushtaq Ali trophies? But Ajit Agarkar and co, well done.
Gambhir also.
Gambhir
gets a lot of flack when he gets it, but he's also part of this decision making. So
yeah, but that's some decision by them, by the way.
We have been saying, if you remember on this podcast only, we've been saying for a year now that in T20 you have to be hyper vigilant and just select on current form more than pedigree.
But to pick a guy who doesn't just justify his position in the squad, but actually breaks his way into the 11 and is now like the in-form batter of the tournament, perhaps in terms of strike rate and average, it's an incredible selection. And like, let's hope Ishan Kishan keeps doing well just for their sake, because it's a great selection. Yeah.
And just as an outsider, to come back through the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, which when you have the IPL in this country, and to come back through like the backest of back doors into the World Cup squad, that shows also the faith that Indian selectors have in the quality of their cricket, even when it's not the IPL and even it's not like the big showpiece tournaments.
They've actually been insistent on these guys going back to play domestic cricket whenever they're not playing international cricket. There better be a good reason for not playing domestic cricket, or you retire from that format.
And I'm also glad Ishan Kishan is in this tournament, because he looks a lot like Hanuma kind, and that made for a very nice photo. And also because he said in a press conference that he doesn't joke these days too much in the Indian dressing room, because you can't with Gautam Gambhir there. So
by the way, for Fernando, Gambhir means serious, literally means serious.
Okay, before we go, I'm just going to ask you. I don't want to go through all of the best games in the group stage, but let me just ask you if you guys have any like hot take on any of the really close games. I'll start with mine. This was the one against, this is from the double super over game, where I actually think that if Keshav Maharaj hadn't bowled that wide before the last ball, there's a good chance Gurbaz would have hit it for six. Because and Dale Steyn actually said something in one of our videos which I kind of disagreed with, because he said that Gurbaz went for the big shot. But it actually looked to me like he wound up, but then he looked to place it through the offside.
Because the tie was an option now.
Yeah, and that's, and like that kind of being in two minds and checking the shot is what ended up, is what made him end up hitting it to point. Whereas if he had just gone for the big shot, he may just have cleared long off or cleared extra cover. So that's my hot take on that game. Do you guys have anything else on Nepal, England, or Netherlands versus Pakistan, or any of the other games?
Um, uh, yeah, you
I have
go.
an obvious one in this during this game that they overthought it and they sent Mohammad Nabi ahead of Gurbaz when they saw Keshav Maharaj warming up to bowl the super over, knowing that Nabi has a better record against spin overall. But I think they just overanalyzed the situation, or they just relied too much on the head-to-heads and matchups. Gurbaz was in form. He had been batting. He had batted two innings. He should have just opened the innings, and who knows?
Hot take, man. My takes have been a little too hot lately, but I
Speak kindly.
don't. I uh I don't know. I think it's been a good World Cup for catching, by the way, which I have really enjoyed.
Tony Munyanga,
Munyonga's catch here to
Pathum
me.
Nissanka,
Pathum
Oh
Nissanka,
yeah,
Nissanka.
that was
Nissanka's catch was probably the best
the
Sri
catch
Lanka
of the
catch I have
tournament.
seen for many years. And the photograph that Ishara Kodikara took as well. I don't know if you've seen that one. Good ad for the phone that's advertising in the background, but he's just off his feet. And the fact that he got to that ball is just the athleticism that was really special to watch, at the ground where, everything shushes down and all you hear is the popper in the background because everyone's just in awe of the catch. Those two, that one and the Munyonga one, I can't remember who it was. So this one was to get rid of Glenn Maxwell, the Pathum Nissanka one. Munyonga might have been, I can't remember who it was.
Oh, it was
Pointers
Renshaw.
maybe.
It was
yeah. I
Oh,
Renshaw.
think it was
Renshaw.
Renshaw. Yeah,
Renshaw, yeah, it was a big catch because Renshaw was top scoring in that match. And yeah, just plays it very cool, barely celebrates it. Have really, yeah, just have enjoyed the fielding standards so far. Hopefully that stays up.
Okay, quickly before you go, I'm going to ask you guys for your top four predictions, which Fidel didn't send me on vertical video when I asked him for it, but it's okay. That video's done now, Fidel.
Flip your phone and do it now.
That
Oh,
one's gone up.
mine is more of a wish.
Okay.
India versus Pakistan in Colombo and Sri Lanka versus South Africa at Wankhede.
Why not Sri Lanka versus West Indies at Wankhede? Anyway, never mind.
Yeah. Mine is
Ah,
I'm trying to anti-jinx Sri Lanka a little bit here. I would say New Zealand, Pakistan from the group that's here.
Colombo.
Yeah, New Zealand. That would make it New Zealand, India. Or would it? Yeah, New Zealand, India, and Mumbai, the Wankhede. Yeah, and then in Colombo, Pakistan, South Africa, I guess.
Oh, Pakistan have a good chance of making it then.
Yeah.
Because
So
South Africa, they spend their whole time in Ahmedabad and suddenly they go to Colombo. You never know.
it could work out. For Pakistan could just, I mean, who knows? It's been a long time since Pakistan have got their like normal tournament run on, but we live in hope. Oh, it's about no 2020, 2022, sorry.
No, that was the funniest one. They didn't get on a run and they still made the final.
Okay, guys, you've heard our predictions. We will be back soon. If our editor has his wish, then we will be back between the Super 8s and the semi-finals. If Monga has his wish, we'll be back after the IPL and just recap everything together. But until then, everybody, just be safe, wear your seatbelt, even if you're sitting in the back seat of a car. Have a systematic investment plan, diversify your investments. Make sure to check your pockets before you go in for an MRI. Don't park your car outside the Ketarama when there's a training session on. And
China Freedy's hitting, range hitting. Yeah.
and always remember, just say no to quick singles. They're not worth it. That's it, guys. That's a wrap. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Justin. All right.
Okay.
We're good.
Bye.
Bye.
TV umpire to director, we have a review. Can you rock and roll it for me, please?